Hey Divi Nation, thank you for joining us in this live stream. Today we'll show you how to automatically generate container space for your fixed Divi header using JQuery, and we'll also use the mobile app layout pack to match the style. So if you haven't checked that out yet, make sure that you do. I've mentioned a link in the description below. And if you're not an Elegant Themes member yet, make sure that you check out Divi. I've mentioned a link to the product page where you can go ahead and discover everything for yourself. And without any further ado, let's get to it. All right, so I'm just going to start off by taking a quick look to see if people are joining in. I just want to say welcome, everyone. If you have any questions, make sure that you leave a comment in the comment section on Facebook or on YouTube in the live chat, and I'll be checking on those every now and then just to see if you guys have any questions. All right, so what we're going to do within this live stream tutorial is create container space for our fixed headers. So by default, if you enable a fixed position on a section that you build within your global header, it will be placed on top of page and post content. And that's something most people don't want because it overlaps copy and stuff like that. And we're going to remove that problem by creating a solution using JQuery. Some universal code that you can use for any kind of global header that you build. So let me just show you guys the difference before we go any further. So over here, I have built this beautiful global header that matches the style of the mobile app layout pack. And at the top of our page, there's enough container space for the fixed header to stay in touch. And if we scroll down, it is fixed. Now, the difference between having that container space and not having it is the following. So this one, on this page, I don't have any container space for my fixed header, and you can already notice that it overlaps certain existing content. Now, this becomes even more of a problem when you go to smaller screen sizes. So over here, I have enabled the container space, and the copy just shows up perfectly. Now, if I switch over here, I don't have the container space, and it overlaps certain copy on my mobile page, and that's obviously something we do not want. Now, this is something you can easily solve with just a bit of jQuery code, and we're going to show you how to do it. And you can also find the jQuery code by going to the blog post in the description below. All right, so let's get started. Now, over here, I have a brand new page that doesn't have any global header yet. And we're going to rebuild this beautiful global header from scratch. So that's the first part of this tutorial. Now I'm going to go to the back end of my WordPress website and go to Divi Theme Builder. All right, and over here I have, so this over here, the default website template is the outcome that we'll recreate. Over here I have the example without the container space that I've created, and I'm going to create everything from scratch in this third template over here that's specific to this page, where you guys can see the outcome as we're building it. Now, to start building your header, just click on Add Custom Header or Add Global Header and click on Build Custom Header. Now over here, as usual, you get three options. We're going to start building from scratch. Over here, I have a section already. I'm going to use that section to build my global header. And I just want to mention that the technique that we're using, so the code that we're using afterwards, matches any kind of section that you build. So we'll recreate this specific example, but just know that you can create any kind of section design and have it apply to that specific global header that you're building. Now, two important parts of this tutorial are creating your global header using one section, so you can place as many rows and elements as you want within your global header, and then assigning a CSS class to your section, which we'll do later on this tutorial. Now, once you assign that CSS class, you can use it within the jQuery code to automatically create a placeholder for your section and calculate the height and assign that height to the new placeholder, if that makes sense. So I'll go into depth later on, but I'm just going to start building my global header first. So over here, I'm just going to open the section settings, and I'm going to use a background color that matches the mobile app layout pack. So let me just grab that color code really quick for you guys. I'm also going to use a background image. So this is an image that is included in the layout pack, so the mobile app layout pack, but you can also find it in the download folder that is shared in the blog post. So everything that we'll do right now is shared step by step in the blog post, which is mentioned in the description below. So if you just want to take your time and go through all of the steps at your own pace, you can do that as well. But also just to mention, this video will be available afterwards as well. Now next, we're going to reduce the size of our sections. So as you can notice, this is kind of a bit too much height for a header. So we'll go to the spacing settings and we're going to remove all of the default top and bottom padding by adding 0 pixels to both options over here. We'll also use a subtle box shadow, and that will just help us create a distinction between the global header and the page content. We'll use 80 pixels for the blur strength to create a little bit of a more fading out effect, and we'll also keep this shadow color. It's pretty subtle already, but you can modify it if you want to. Now we're going to turn the section fixed, and you can do that easily with Divi's built-in options by going to the advanced tab over here, going to the position settings and changing this into fixed. Now you can choose the location. Since we're using a full width row, that'll be the same, but we'll just choose top center in case you want to modify the width or anything like that. All right. And now we can add our row. So we'll use a 3-column row, and this is the column structure that we're using over here. And before adding any modules, I'm going to open the row settings, and I'm going to modify the sizing settings over here. So I'll enable use custom gutter width. I'll place that to 2. And I'm also going to increase the width and max width to 100% for both options. All right. Next up, I'll go to the spacing settings, and we're going to use some custom padding values across different screen sizes. So we'll use 20 pixels for the top and the bottom padding, and we'll remove all of that padding on smaller screen sizes by adding 0 pixels to the tablet option, and this is automatically inherited by the phone option as well. Then we'll go to the advanced tab over here, and to make sure that if I switch over here, you'll see that all of the column content is aligned, and to do that we'll just need 2 lines of CSS code, which we'll add to the row's main elements. So the first line is display flex, and the second line is align items center. So this is what we have up until now. And as you can notice over here, we have 2 buttons, but on smaller screen sizes. We've removed this for user experience purposes. We don't want the height to be too much on smaller screen sizes. And that's why we'll just hide the second and the third row. So we'll keep those call to actions on bigger screen sizes and remove them on smaller screen sizes. So I'll just do that by opening the column 2 and 3 settings and selecting tablet and phone here in the disable on option. And I'll do that for both columns. All right. And now we can start adding our modules. In the first column, we'll use the menu module. But before I go any further, I just want to see if you guys have any questions. I'll be checking out on the comments in between. So I just want to say hi to everyone. I see a lot of people joining on YouTube. George, Andrew, Lila, Nick, Hafiz, Uncle Social. Hi, everyone. I hope you guys will enjoy this tutorial. And again, if you have any questions, make sure that you leave a comment. All right, so starting with a new module in column 1, we'll use a menu module. And we're just going to select a menu over here, and then we'll go to the logo settings. And we're also going to upload a logo. Let's just pick one of our choice. I'll just grab this one over here really quick. And I'm also going to remove the background color. Then I'll go to the design tab and I'll make sure that this is left aligned and downwards. And I'm also going to make some changes to the menu text settings. Let me just grab those really quick and then walk you guys through them. All right, so this is the menu font that we're using. We're using semi-bold for the font weight. We're using different colors for the menu text color. And the menu text size is different as well. It's 0.8 VW on desktop, 2.5 VW on tablet, and 3 VW on phone. And then we'll go to the drop-down menu settings. And over here, I'm just going to choose a white drop-down menu line color. So that's just for smaller screen sizes. If I switch over here, it just removes that line that's default to Divi. And I'm also going to choose another hamburger menu icon color. Again, we'll just choose a white color. And then I'll go to the spacing settings and I'll make some changes here as well. First of all, I'm going to remove 0 pixels for the bottom margin. So we're using a gutter width of 2, which means that there's automatically some bottom margin after each module that you place. So there's some space between the first module and the second module in your column. And if you just want to remove that for one module itself, you can just add 0 pixels to the bottom margin of that specific module. We'll also add some left margin, 10%, and on smaller screen sizes, we'll use some right margin as well, also 10%, and that will just help us keep things aligned the way we want them to be aligned. And last but not least, we're also going to add a bit of right margin to our menu logos. Over here, you can notice that there's a little bit of a lack of space, and to add a bit of space there, we'll just add 1 line of CSS code to the menu logo in the advanced tab. And let me just add that very quickly. And on smaller screen sizes, we'll remove this because it's not necessary. And to remove it, we'll just use 0 VW instead of 8 VW. Now on to the next column. Over here, we're going to use a text module. So let me just switch back to the outcome. So over here, it looks like we have 2 buttons, but to obtain this kind of style, you'll need a text module instead. So we'll use a text module and we'll attach a link to it. Now, before I go any further, I'm just going to check on the comment sections to see if there's anything I should be aware of. Okay, so Nancy's saying, thank you for doing this lesson. I just left an email to the ET support about overlapping issue on the builder header. So you'll definitely enjoy this tutorial then. It's universal. You can use it for any kind of global header that you're building, as long as you stick to one section. But even if you're building a global header with more sections, you could definitely modify the code if you know a little bit of JQuery to make it match. Yeah. All right, let's continue. All right, so over here I have a text module and I'm just going to add some copy. I'll use get in touch, but you can use whatever you want. And I'm also going to add a link. So obviously you're gonna use a link of your choice that matches the CTA that you're using. All right. And then we'll move on to the design tab, and let me just grab the text settings really quick. So what you'll notice while designing these 2 modules, so the text module and the button module, is the fact that I'm only optimizing it for desktop as we're not using it on smaller screen sizes. So if you're not using it on smaller screen sizes, it's not really necessary to style it, right? Because we've hidden the second and the third column on smaller screen sizes just to make sure that there's not too much height to our global header. So these are the settings that we're using over here. So again, you can find all of these steps in the blog post as well, which is listed below, and you can go through all of these steps at your own pace, or you can just, pause the video and grab all of these different settings. Let's move on to the sizing settings over here. We're going to use 45% for the width, and we'll use right module alignment as well. Then we'll go to the spacing settings. We'll add a bit of bottom padding, and this will just help create a bit of space between the text and the border that we'll add in the next step. So we'll just use 1 pixel over here. And you can use any kind of color you want. Now, if you're using a text module to create a button out of it, you'll notice that there's a different cursor to it. Now, if you want to make sure that once you once you hover the item, that a pointer shows up, you can just add 1 line of CSS code to the main element of your text module. And this is the CSS code line that we're using. So just cursor, pointer, and that will make sure that there's no difference actually between the text module and the button module. You just have a little bit more possibilities to style it, especially if you want to go for a more subtle CTA. And the last module we need over here is a button module. So again, we're just using the same style as the mobile app layout pack, but you can use any kind of hero section design, or like header design, and apply the styles that you want using Divi's built-in options, and then afterwards just calculate the height and create a placeholder for the header at the top of your page or post. All right, so over here, we're going to make some changes to the button settings. Let me just grab those really quick for you guys. Just gonna paste them. So these are the values that we're using. These are the 2 color codes. So this is the first color code. This is the second color code that we're using. We're changing the text size, the button text color into white. We're using a gradient background. 0 for the button border width, 4 pixels for the button border radius, and we're using a bold font weight as well. And then we'll go to the spacing settings, and we'll just make the button look a bit better by adding some padding values. So these are the values that we're using. So 0.8 VW for the top and the bottom, and 1.5 for the left and the right side. And last but not least, we'll also use a box shadow. Let me grab that box shadow as well. Here it is. So these are the settings that we're using. This is the color code that we're using as well. Now we've built this beautiful global header, and again, you can find all of the steps to this exact global header by going to the blog post in the description below. And now comes the important part, and it's actually really easy. It's just using some JQuery code, that matches any kind of global header that you're building using one section, assigning a CSS class to that section, and going live with your website and your global header. Now, before I go any further, I'm just going to take a quick look at the comments once more, and then we'll continue. So someone has a question, Nick has a question. I thought it read when you select equalize column heights in row sizing that it automatically sets display to flex. Is that accurate? Well, it depends on what you want to do. I do not know the specifics of the CSS code that I'm using there. I just know that it works. I don't know how it is compatible with the current sizing settings. I just know that it doesn't work without adding it to the row's main element, if that makes any sense. So combining these two, display flex and align items center, will definitely allow you to center the column content. It's just kind of like a CSS hack, I would say. It's not really necessary either, because you can use padding if you want, or margin. But if you want, you can do that easily using these two lines of CSS code. Hope that answered your question. All right, so let's continue. So the next part of this tutorial focuses on creating that container space. Now, the first thing you will need to do is open the section settings. Now, this can be any kind of section that you've built using Divi's built-in options, as long as you're sticking to one section. So you can use multiple rows. This can be anything you want. So go to the Design tab, to the Advanced tab actually, of your section settings, and give a CSS class to your entire section. Now, this is the CSS class that we're using. And this matches the JQuery code that we'll use later on. So make sure that you add this to any kind of global header that you build using Divi's built-in options. Now, to add the JQuery code and also a little bit of CSS code just to make a tweak, we're going to use a code module. Now, we'll place that code module in the first column of our row, but you can place it anywhere you want. Let me just switch over here and add a code module. And a code module will just help you add CSS code or jQuery code in that specific design that you're creating. It's really easy. So I'm just going to add the jQuery code and guide you guys a little bit through it if you're interested. All right, so what we're doing over here is we're creating a new var, obviously, for our section. And then we're wrapping the section around another div. So we're creating a div around this section. And then we'll create another variable for this placeholder div that we just created. And then we'll use it within our code. So over here, we're calculating the height of our current section, so the section that we've built using Divi's built-in options, so all of the elements that are in it. So this is just calculating that height, and then we'll take the placeholder and add a bit of height to the CSS of that placeholder. And the height of that placeholder equals the height that we've calculated of the section, if that makes any sense. And also on resize, so if someone's resizing their window, this will be recalculated. So the header height will be recalculated, and it will again be assigned to the wrap that we've created, so the placeholder div, if that makes any sense. All right. And then we'll also add just a bit of CSS code, and this is unique to the design. So if you're not recreating this exact design, it won't be necessary. But this will just help us create the desired outcome on smaller screen sizes. Make sure that you place this between style tags and the previous code, so the jQuery code, between script tags. It's really important. Now you can find all of this code in the blog post mentioned in the description below. Or you can just read it off the screen, whatever you want to go with. So I'm just going to save this. This is our hero section design. And I'm just going to check the comments. Maybe you guys have any comments about the CSS or jQuery code. Okay, I see that quite a lot of people think this is something that they will definitely use in the future, so I'm happy to hear that and read that. All right, so let's just... Okay, so Nick asks, I missed where you put that code module. I've mentioned that you could place it anywhere you want. Now I've placed it in the first column of my row because I've removed the bottom margin of my menu module, so it doesn't take up any extra space, if that makes sense. But you can place it anywhere you want, right? All right, let me just save this and view the outcome on my page. So also something I really want to mention is as soon as you're done creating a design, whether it's a page template or a header template, you save it there and then make sure that you save the changes of your theme builder as well so it doesn't go lost. All right, let me just refresh. As you can see, we have some container space. Now if I zoom in and out, you can see it automatically adjusting to my new window size. And let me just inspect the element. Over here, I'm just gonna log out for you guys to see. So it looks differently when you're logged in and when you're logged out. And just log out over here and go back. So as you can see, we have the container space on any kind of screen size. It doesn't overlap existing page content, and it works for any kind of global header that you're building. All right, so I'll just take a last quick look at the comment section before we call it a day. Does this affect the z-index, or do you need to set a higher value of on the z-index in the section? It doesn't affect it. It's basically a different container that has that height. So you can just continue the way you're used to building your global header. All right. I don't see any more questions. So, well, that was all for this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you for joining, and we hope you've enjoyed it and that you'll keep watching our videos, and see you in the next one.